Shalom. Finding myself with more time on my hand, I've been doing extra reading, and I thought to share with you some of the reading that makes me tick. Maybe it might make you tick, and we can tick together during those very special times. This article is called A Bible Message for Times of Crisis, and it's written by somebody called Anat Shneider, who writes for a magazine called Israel Today. And here it is. So I have a bit of a, it's funny, in English you said you have a frog in your throat. In French you say you have a cat in your throat. That's why I'm hoarse. But I think we'll get through this. When Moses disappears up Mount Sinai, the people are anxious and confused. Where did our leader go? Is he coming back? What's happening? Israel had just come out of slavery, and without their leader, they are left to their own devices. Without purpose, without vision. You know, in the Psalms it says, without vision, the people perish. As such, they needed something to hold on to, something they can grasp. Anything to help them with the insecurity of not knowing, the fear of the unknown. Without knowledge, faith can find a way. But when there is no faith, the people are left with emptiness and fear. That's when they will do just about anything to fill that emptiness. So Israel creates a God with their own hands, a man-made figure in place of the Holy One, just not to be left alone. Even Moses' brother Aaron doesn't ask questions, nor does he try to calm down the people. They want a God they shall have. This is not just any God, but a golden one, and not just any gold, but the precious gold the Israelites managed to take, and that's it, they didn't forget, as they rushed out of Egypt in Exodus. The same gold they still have from the land of their slavery. Exodus 32:4 says that Aaron took the gold from their hands, and with an engraving tool he fashioned it into a molten calf. And they said, "These Israel are your gods who brought you out of the land of Egypt." Exodus 32:6 says, "And the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in depravity." That cat might be chasing the frog. In Hebrew, indulged in depravity is one word. It is the word hitparchut, a word full of meaning. The people shook off and disbanded all restraints demanded by faith, morality, and that which is holy they abandoned, and fashioned for themselves an image that hid God and his truth from their eyes. Now with their bullcrap of a God, sorry, I would never use such language. I'm just reading a text here from Anat Shneider. They sat themselves down to fool around in total abandonment. Those who still stood at the foot of Mount Sinai's holiness fell into decadence. From a faith connection to heavenly realms, they descend into alienation and entrapment in mere worldly stuff. When this kind of disconnect and estrangement occurs, a war breaks out between spirit and flesh, and that's exactly what happens to Moses as he comes back down from Mount Sinai with the holy commandments and see what's going on with the people. The leader's heart is broken and downtrodden, now embodied in the broken tablets lying on the ground. Moses shouts out in Exodus 32:26, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me. The Levites respond and join their leader, who commands them to kill 3,000 people, 3,000 men. It's all out war. Exodus 32:35 also tells us, and the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf that Aaron made. The Lord struck the people with a plague because of the golden calf. Here is a total breakdown in every area of life: body, spirit, and soul. A leader like Moses understands what's going on and knows that in order to turn the people back to their right mind, to faith, and to pick up the pieces of their broken lives, there must be a radical change. You would all agree with that, right? That in order to turn the people back to their right mind, to faith, and to pick up the pieces of their broken lives, there must be radical change. To do that, the people will need to see reality and look into the depths of their souls. The article continues and says, Moses goes back up the mountain for 40 days for a face-to-face sit-down with God. He had a powwow with God, a parley, a meeting unique in scriptures. This was Moses' chance to look into himself. What needed to be changed within him as a leader and a man in order to go back and bring back the people. It was his chance to ask what went wrong. He understands that real change must come from within and that he must start with himself. I think that is quite interesting. Like it says, and James says, be ye not many teachers, for unto you is greater condemnation. Well, it's true. A leader, a teacher is, oh yes, he's worthy of double honor, but he also has greater condemnation, he should have a greater sense of responsibility. And the right way, teshuvah, repentance, starts with him. By faith, Moses also knew that this kind of inner soul searching can bring the people back to their senses and end the rejection of restraints and the resulting depravity. The message from Anat Shneider continues and says, I find a connection between the coronavirus crisis and the state of mind among my people, Israel. There is no real leader nor any leadership, and we're left alone, vulnerable to attack. I don't know if that's what he's talking about, but there's been 3 elections in Israel, and now they're saying, no, we're not going to have a 4th one. It's difficult. There is real back and forth, and they're not succeeding to find one who's going to be able to build a coalition together. Actually, the president of Israel just recently got the 2 main parties together and told them, you need to find some way to make peace together, and together you'll build a coalition. That's what the president, his name is Rivlin, I think, said. So here, this writer, Anat Shneider, says, I found a connection between the coronavirus crisis and the state of mind among my people, Israel. There is no real leader nor any leadership, and we are left alone, vulnerable to attack. It is not without some irony that even the airspace over Israel is shut down. We are left isolated as a nation to stew in whatever broth we may have cooked up. This must be a time to look within ourselves and make the necessary changes and honest decisions. Our leadership too need to let go of their egos and make the changes they need to be able to lead the people. If it takes 40 days of isolation in order to come back radiant, like Moses, and prepared to lead the people, the kind of radiating light that will melt any virus, so be it. When Moses sees God face to face, he receives words of faith and truth in their intimate meeting. Words such as, "You have found favor in my eyes." The Lord says to Moses, which helps, and that helps him find favor with himself. As his love and faith are restored, all things can be overcome, and he is able to go back down to the people and start again with a new attitude and hope as he returns with new tablets written by his own hand and extends the new covenant of God, a blessed inheritance for the people. Moses is an extraordinary reminder of how a leader must lead in the hour of crisis. He gathers himself for a meeting with God to strengthen his faith and restore his love. That is what now radiates upon the skin of his face and testifies to the largeness of his soul. With this radiating light, he returns to the people and becomes the memorable leader we all know and love until this very day. I hope you enjoy the story. Again, this was from Anat Shneider from the magazine Israel Today. Shalom. Be safe and stay healthy.